Let's begin this newscast with our top focus coming in from China, as the deadly coronavirus is said to have originated in Wuhan, and it infected close to 82,000 people in China alone, forcing Xi Jinping's administration to impose stringent lockdown across the country. However, after months of isolation, Chinese have now started reopening their businesses and people are travelling all across the country. Millions of Chinese citizens have ventured out for the first time since the coronavirus outbreak hit China. During their 5-day holiday for May Day, hundreds of thousands flooded the country's iconic landmark attractions, boosting tourism revenue like never before. The Chinese railways have also started their operations, and it is being estimated that it served 5 million passengers using 6,875 trains on May 3rd. This is 40% more than the daily average in the month of April. China has opened only close to 70% of its most visited tourist attractions. In fact, this decision has limited the number of tourists travelling across the country. However, travellers are being encouraged to book their slots well in advance, plan their tour effectively, and also ensure the basic social distancing that is required in today's times.
В течение 2 недель создать новую систему госпиталей, это было сделано, практически день в день.
With the opening up of businesses and easing restrictions, China's economy is also on a recovery. Local governments and enterprises are also working in unison to promote and create new economic growth points amid the coronavirus pandemic. The virus spread is waning across China, but health authorities have warned against a relapse and asked people to remain highly alert. They are also making efforts to prevent and control the virus spread, while the latest COVID-19 data from China indicates from past 11 consecutive days there has been a significant drop in positive cases. The deadly coronavirus infected more than 82,000 and killed over 4,600 in China. But as of now, there are only 481 active cases with 33 patients needing critical care. And let's quickly get in a perspective of everything that's happening in China. And for that, I'm joined in by our guest, Mr. Einar Tangen, a political and economic commentator. He's joining me live from Beijing at this hour. And a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Tangen. Let me begin by asking, now that China is easing travel restrictions by reopening various sites, how is life in the country regaining normalcy?
Well, I live in Beijing, and I can tell you that things returned to normal last night. That unfortunately includes traffic jams and lines, but very orderly. Social distancing was practiced. There's only so many people who are allowed in per law into a restaurant based on the number of square meters there are available. And this is the same at attractions. You actually, if you want to go to the Forbidden City, you need to make a reservation. And when you're there, they practice literally. They make you stand apart and make sure that the facility is not overwhelmed.
All right, so social distancing measures are being followed. Now, the May Day holiday helped in generating massive revenues. How much of a role can domestic travel play in terms of resurrecting the ailing Chinese economy?
Well, it's not a huge percent, but we are talking about very, very hard-hit industries. All of these were, in essence, shut down for 3 months. So even a start is very good. Remember, Chinese tourists are the largest tourist group in the world. They will not be traveling outside China, so it's probable that they will spend their money to the extent that they're traveling within. And that is good news for these tourist operators, hotels, and transportation companies.
Right. Mr. Tangen, speaking of the economy, the country has suffered its first economic contraction since 1987. With fear of a second resurgence of the virus looming large, what are the possible implications for the Chinese economy and the investors, and which sectors have been hit the hardest?
Well, obviously, the primary sector involved has been anything in entertainment, travel, hotels, movie theaters. But there have been other sectors that have done well, games, online shopping, etc. So at this point, we don't know if or when there will be a second wave. This is what the government is measuring right now. This is really the first opening up period where you could see a spike. If that does happen, expect Beijing to once again clamp down and do what is necessary to protect the people.
Now, Mr. Tangen, Donald Trump says he will kill phase one trade deal if China's $200 billion spending promise falls short. What's the possible fate of the trade deal now at a time when the Chinese economy is facing a slowdown?
Well, it's looking very dim right now because Donald Trump is not only saying he's going to kill the trade deal, but he's also going to add more tariffs. Unfortunately, he still does not understand that tariffs are a tax on his own consumers, not on China. It's a very difficult situation. Right now, China is the only country capable of actively producing things. Their factories are somewhere between 80 and 90%. So at this point, it's just hard to know exactly where Donald Trump will get what is needed for the American people. And this is not the time to be adding costs onto American consumers, especially when they don't even have enough to pay their rent.
All right. On that note, the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has also said that there was enormous evidence that the coronavirus pandemic originated in a laboratory in Wuhan. He has also said that the whole world can see now that China has a history of infecting the world and running substandard laboratories. How do you view Pompeo's comments?
Well, I think it's mostly political. Donald Trump is suffering from very poor poll numbers. He's angry. He threatened to sue his own campaign manager because he didn't get the results he wanted. Attack China is the game plan. It's not defend Trump. Remember the 57-page report that was put out by Donald Associates on behalf of the Republican Senate Committee. Very, very clear. There's only one issue as this campaign goes forward, and that is China. By transferring the blame to China, it will diffuse any kind of idea that Trump was not preparing for the COVID virus. Pompeo is obviously an interested surrogate, and he's been pushing this a long time China hawk. The question is, will people believe it or see this as political?
Right. We'll know in November if using China as an election campaign issue will help Donald Trump and the Republicans or not. On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Tangen, for joining us on this live broadcast and sharing your views.